Oh, we made it back. It's been so long since I could do a pod for NSL and for the Portland fans out there. So here we are, quiet moment in a busy life. Um, but there's always time for NSL. So I thought I would cover league first, trade market second, and then put the lens on Portland and the unusual last couple of months that we've been through compared to what we usually do. So the state of the league, I mean, there's some real powerhouse teams starting to form, and with just 2 weeks left until the trade deadline, there's not a lot of time for teams to make big changes. So maybe this is where a lot of teams will start really kind of locking in on what they've got to really work on their strategies. Maybe look at matching up with particular teams from their conferences that they might run into. I'm just going to look at the standings, give you my take on the real contenders, who they are. And we're out east. I really think it's only the top two teams that have a shot out there. Yeah, there's obviously going to be teams that win multiple series or at least one series of basketball, and that's success in its own right. But two teams out there that can genuinely win it, and that would be the Bucks and Washington. I think Cavs had a lot of steam for the great trades they've been making, and they've really hit form recently, and they looked really good. But with the injuries that have just hit, I don't think they quite had it this season anyway, up against full strength Bucks and Wiz. But they would be my only outside shot for the East. So I think it's after those deals, after getting Paul George, like Bucks, Bucks look incredible. The Wizards look incredible anytime they get their full team, but what are they going to look like without Levine? Will Josh be able to recoup any value, or does he hold Levine because he knows his worth, or because it's not going to give his team that much of a boost? Yeah, I think it's really probably two teams out there who have got a shot to make it out of the East. And then I'll scroll down to the West. West's pretty saucy. I see really four teams with a genuine shot of getting out. I think it's crazily enough, I think the Jazz, full strength, are the best team in the West. I don't know if Jace has that figured out yet, but I think with the pieces they've got, size, versatility, just for some reason I keep coming back to Jazz. And yeah, Embiid's got to get right and healthy, so that's a really big if. I don't know. I reckon if they're full strength, I think it's Jazz. I think Wolves are really sneakily good, and I think they, even as is, I think can make it out of the West as well. These four teams, if it goes well for them, if they get their coaching in order, if they get their house in order, I think any of these four teams can make it out. Obviously, the reigning champs Spurs are always thereabouts. And they know how to get it done. So that counts a lot against mini LA and Utah who don't quite have those miles. But I think it's only really the top four that can win it out west either. So LA, Minnesota, San Antonio, Utah. I know everyone, OKC, amazing run. They're going to be a great team, but too early. Portland, not good enough. Denver, New Orleans, Memphis, Houston, great teams. Can you beat those other top four teams in 7 games, though? It's less about you and more about the opponent when it gets to that. Because Denver, New Orleans, Memphis, and Houston are great teams in their own right. But I still think the title race is out of 6 teams. I think it's Bucks, Wizards, Lakers, Wolves, Spurs, and Utah. And I mean, that's not rocket science. They're the top 6 records in the league. But unless there's something dramatic at deadline, I can't see anyone else really interfering with that. And it was all kind of like Lakers are the best team in the West. And then as soon as that banner came out on the front page, they seemed to look a bit more inconsistent, maybe. I'm not going to say worse. Wolves seem to win with whoever they've got on the court. They just need to be healthy. And Spurs, as I've already mentioned, know how to win the biggest games in the season. And the Jazz, I think, have the best team. the best, most exciting roster. So it's going to be amazing games. Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we're migrating the site. Trades are paused, which is interesting or frustrating, or you don't care, which is probably most. It feels like half the teams really either don't really value trading too much at this point of the season, or this season, or just maybe don't like talking to Portland. Although I feel like there's been comments about the trade market from multiple guys that just say it's really tough. People are really set, or people are tapped out of assets, or probably the biggest factor is you can't, with the new financial and trading restrictions, you can't couple contracts together. You used to have to wait about 4 weeks, I think, and now it's 60 days. So that's halving your ability to sorry, not a technical glitch. Just had to help somebody grab something. Sorry, where was I? Yeah, the trading. I think it's the fact you can't couple contracts together. So week 9 comes, everyone dumps their load, so to speak, of trading that had been building up and all the talks and all the banked up deals. And then pretty much anything you got, you can't couple that with anything else for this season, which really limits your ability to condense and upgrade. It really limits your ability to like even put 2 guys together to add a contract. You've got teams who are 3 or 4 teams who are over the second apron who can't really do anything. And those teams don't really seem like they want to do much anyway. But I've tried to look at trades with Memphis multiple times and Nuggets and just can't find anything that works, at least for both GMs. So I can't see a huge amount happening at the trade deadline, other than 1-for-1 deals of maybe really good players. I don't see stars moving. I myself are trying to move, really trying to lean into this rebuild, and I've still got mid-80s guys who I'm trying to move, and there's teams who are just like, nah. Or it just doesn't quite fit, or its salary's off by a couple of mil. It makes it tricky. You've really got to find subtle little deals that fit what you're doing. Maybe we don't find any, which is fine for us. And that might be a segue into the next. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is just reviewing what we've done over the past probably 2 months since I've had a pod, since I've had any news. And it's been a pretty dramatic couple of months. We've gone from Portland a lock to win 60 games to Portland's brand new team, pretty much. Had most of our player value condensed into 3 or 4 players. And now we have spread that over, I'd imagine, like nine good players, perhaps, and who are still capable of winning good games, but are very inconsistent and really are a playing team at this point. So we might go back to where it all started, and that was finding a deal for for Damian Lillard. So loved having Dame, really fun player to own, fun to watch, can shoot it from anywhere. It was nothing about my team. I mean, if I just pushed all in further, I had some picks to work with. If I put in more sim time, I could have refined the team and we push forward, but I just wasn't having fun. And I might have said this previously. The end of last season was super sour for me, and I just needed a change. And this has just made me a lot more enthusiastic about NSL. I feel like I'm better to engage with. I'm just enjoying it a lot more after refreshing and kind of figuring out the next challenge about building up a team, and then kind of going for it all from the outside looking in, as opposed to already being there after winning the first season. And it's been really fun. It's been fun to talk to a lot more people. I was so narrow in the teams I would chat to for trades. Now, because I'm on the outside looking in, I can kind of cheer on some of the contenders and view it as more of a fan as well. But the first domino was Dame, some bench filler guys, and 4 second rounders for Chris Paul, Derek White, Walker Kessler, and 3 firsts. Now, I almost moved Dame a couple of times, and then I was resigned to keeping him. And then this came really quickly, and Smokey and I worked it out quite quickly as well. Really happy with the return. If you're not valuing the wins, then the markers, the trade markers about particular assets change when it comes to trades. Walker Kessler, obviously a guy that's down from his hype last year, but there's never as much excitement with the sophomores anyway. So I think he's going to be fantastic. And he already got the love from 2K last season. So really happy to add him. Derek White's been amazing. He's amazing in the NBA. He's genuinely great two-way player with elite defense. And he's even more than that in 2K because his efficiency is so high with his scoring. So he's been great. If I wasn't so deep in point guard players, I think he'd be point guard for me and putting up massive numbers. Chris Paul, I think it has to just be the trade restrictions that have stopped someone at least making some kind of offer for him. He's awesome in the game. 20 points, 6 assists for me. I'm like 44% shooting since he's played for me. And some later picks for in the coming years just to keep the balance of power, the balance of value in that equation, and happy to just put those away and see what happens. That was a huge domino. And after that, it was all hands on deck. Let's just see what we can move. There was no clinging to a particular build or ideal any longer. It was a real relinquishment of responsibility, and I could just move. And then we made a deal sending Olivier Maxson's Prosper to the Suns for a bit of a step-in dance. We sent Levert to the Cavs for D'Angelo Russell. And I sent some second rounders to have some pick swap rights reversed, which was a subtle little deal that maybe it works out for me in the future, maybe it doesn't. The biggest one, caved and eventually settled or found a deal that it's probably as good as I was going to get. Josh is an amazing, reasonable GM to deal with, and got a lot of time to chat with him as well. So LeBron ends up going to the Wiz to form an amazing trio, and I get and Pirtle goes as well, and I pretty much get Paul George, Naz Reid, Jalen Smith, Anthony Black Bassey, and some second rounders back. And then I was able to quickly move Smith and Richardson on and a couple of seconds to the Jazz for 2 more firsts. So we're just stacking first at this stage. I then was able to send Russell, who I was thinking, to the Celtics, and then all of a sudden that deal's held up so the Suns can get involved, and really worked out for the Suns. I've unfortunately boosted their wins and I hold their pick, and that's great dealing from Lattice. But I was able to get Schroeder and a first round pick 2028 Indiana, which is a long way away. And at this point with Wemby, it's probably not going to work out all that well, but you never know. Schroeder was what I wanted for Russell because of his salary. So getting a 12 mil guy over a 17 million guy just meant I was closer to more salary ranges. And that came in extremely handy for this last big trade, where a month after getting Paul George, I was able to find a deal that worked to move him on. So the theme here was just diversification, split bigger assets into smaller assets, increase flexibility, increase asset depth. I don't know. I've never done it this way. So that seems like the recipe. And this is where I think the Bucks shot themselves into the team to beat again after a bit of a subpar month for their standards. So they were able to move Paul George. They were able to move Anunoby, Clarkson. Where'd he go? Herb Jones, sorry. Some second rounders and a first round pick for Paul George and Schroeder. So Schroeder was able to take that Clarkson role for Daz, and he looks good in that role. That was the pitch I had to Daz. He came back to me with an offer for Paul George, and I said, look, you got to have salaries involved. You've got to have OG and Herb, but I think this is how it works out. And Daz took some time to test and speculate and evaluate, and then agreed. So that was awesome to get a deal done. I hope the Bucks do really well with that team. And then the last deal, we had 4 point guards who needed minutes. So it was Clarkson and a two-way big man who I think will be okay in 2K if he ever gets minutes in Olivier Sarr for Bogdanovic. So just to have a different skill set, a shooter over a playmaker, and a shooting guard, small forward over a point guard. And that brings us to where we are. And the roster looks incredibly different from day one. We've got no one over 84, and we've got 10 players 75 or over. So Derek White, OG, Chris Paul, Hartenstein, Kessler Walker, Bogdanovic, and Herb Jones are all 80 plus. And then Naz Reid, almost 80. He should probably be 80 at the next update. And then Bassi, who is amazing in 2K, who I'm hoping sticks around, and I'll unleash him next year. A really cheap, really impactful big. Anthony Black, the rookie, who's a bit buried in real life, but he's 6'7". That's awesome for 2K. My guy Cam, and then Houston, Jones, and Minnow are just some young wings, all 21 years of age. Early second round picks in the last couple of years. So we'll see how that pans out there. When the goal's not to win games, when the primary goal is not to win games, as I said, the markers on those assets, the evaluations become different. So, yeah, it's a total new era in Portland. I don't know what we're doing with it, as long as we just hopefully keep trading, but just keep rolling forward. Like I have a longer term plan for this, but that's probably not going to last. It's been really fun. It feels like my love for the NSL's back. It's great pursuing trades. I'm probably annoying to some people, but you got to put in the work if you want to change your team and find those right deals. So, yeah, love the community. LJ, hope it's all going well, mate. I just saw your notification before. Everyone's thinking of you. It's a real tough time for you. So distractions are great, and NSL is one of the best ones. So good luck to those teams who I mentioned as contenders. Good luck to those playoff hopefuls. And if you're already in Cancun and thinking about next year, I guess, have fun on your holidays.